I'm Elizabeth of A Literary Princess, and today I am doing the Philosophy of Reading tag. This was created by Brandon at Brandon's Bookshelf, and I've actually been wanting to do this for a really long time, but this is so stupid, I wanted a bookish background to do it against, because you're not holding up books for this tag, and I didn't want people to just have to stare at my blank wall with like 1/8 of a painting over where I used to film. So I waited until I had my new bookshelf, and now I have a lovely bookish background for you to look at. Like I said, that's really stupid, but that was literally my thought process. So there are 20 questions here to talk about, so let's jump right into them. Question number 1, what's most important, a good character, plot, or message? For me, I would say a good character. So honestly, a good message I don't really care about. That sounds so bad, but like that's not why I read, I guess. I love a good like morally gray or even horrible characters just doing their thing. I read for the characters and the plot, and I will read the same plot multiple times if the characters are good enough. Like, I like fairy tale retellings. So, I mean, the Cinderella plot, it's always pretty much the same. You might get a few differences, but what's really driving the story and making it different and unique is the characters. So for me, a book needs to have great characters for me to enjoy it. And whether that's just they're really well developed or they're really interesting, whatever, it just needs to have great characters. Number 2, should one read books about ideas or opinions they disagree with? Yeah, of course. Otherwise, you're never going to know what the opposing side of the argument is. If you just read things that you agree with, you're going to live your whole life in an echo chamber, and that's not healthy. It's not a good way to develop your intellect. It's not a good way to develop your opinions because, maybe your opinion's wrong. It could happen. And then you need to read things that you don't agree with to realize that your opinion's wrong. So yeah, I think it's very important to read from the other side of the opinion that you hold, because otherwise, even if you don't agree with it, how are you going to argue against it if you get into a debate about it with somebody if you haven't read from the other side and understand what their point of view is? It's completely necessary, especially, I'm an academic, so in an academic setting, you have to read things you don't agree with. The amount of literary criticism I read that I don't agree with, but I have to read it. And it's important for me to read it so that I know, hey, I don't agree with that, and here's why I think you're wrong. Number 3, as tech advances, what do you think will be the role of books? I think books are always going to be here, no matter what. Printed books are going to stay. When the Kindle first came out, everyone was like, print books are going to die. And yet here they are, they're still standing. They're not going anywhere. And even if something happened and they did, we still have them. We have ebooks, we have audiobooks. Books aren't going anywhere. People are always going to be reading. Books will always play a role in society. Question 4, how important are summaries, reviews, and art in your book choosing? Summaries are paramount to me. So the trend of not having summaries on the back of the book, I hate it so much. Have I talked about this on this channel before? I don't know. Probably. Maybe. I don't know. I don't care what the New York Times says about it. I don't care what Oprah says about it. I don't care. I don't care. I do not care. I don't want quotes from people on the back of my book. Give me a summary of it. I want to know what it's about so that I can figure out, do I want to read this or not? Reviews can be helpful to me when deciding to pick up a book, but more often than not, I read them while I'm reading the book or after I read the book. So summaries are definitely more important. And then art, If a book has a really good cover, that helps me pick up the book to look at the summary, but very rarely do I buy just based on the art. Number 5, should you ever skim or scan a book? Hell yeah. God, nobody got time for that shit. Jeez, I skim all the time. I mean, as a PhD student, I have piles of reading that are higher than my ceiling. I have to skim. I can't read every word. I would drive myself crazy. I would be here forever. I would never get to do anything else. It's absolutely fine to skim. Like, who has the time? Goodness, especially when you're like, you have to read it because it's required, but you're not really into it and you're probably not gonna go back to it that much. Absolutely skim. Please, by all means, skim. I skimmed The Second Sex so hard. That was 800 pages. I'm gonna read all 800 pages, good God, no. Number 6, should reading always be enjoyable? No, I don't think so. There are times when you're gonna read things that make you uncomfortable because it's an upsetting topic or because you don't agree with it, but it's still important for you to read it. If reading were always just happy-go-lucky, everything's great, their intellects wouldn't expand, they wouldn't broaden their horizons about things and topics. We wouldn't know about so many horrifying things that is important for us to know about, because if we don't know about these things, I mean, it's the whole history will repeat itself. You need to learn about the past in order to avoid it. So if we just go for enjoyable reading, we're never gonna learn about that stuff, and we need to. So no, it shouldn't always be enjoyable. Obviously, do I get wanting to just read something light and easy to have fun? Yeah, of course. I do that all the time. Reading is my main source of entertainment. But no, I don't think it should always be enjoyable. Number 7, is it important to be well-read? So I think that our definition of well-read is very much skewed. I think it tends to mean like you have read all these classic books, and I don't think that's actually a good definition of it. I think well-read should mean reading kind of a wide range of topics and being informed about different things. So, I mean, yes, it's important to be well-read. We just need to change the definition of well-read, because ultimately, does it matter if you have read all 1,000 books that somebody says are the greatest books in the world? No. Like, does it matter that you read Great Expectations? Not really. But if you are keeping up to date on things, reading a wide variety of opinions on different topics, that makes you a well-developed person. And it means that your thoughts and opinions are going to be well-developed. And that's important. Number 8, what is your book buying process? I get sad and I say, you know what would make me happy? Buying a book. And then I buy a book. That's kind of an oversimplification, but not really. I very much use buying books to make myself happy. There's no real process behind it unless I'm like, okay, I need this book for school, and then I go on Goodreads. I go on Thrift Books usually, and I'm like, okay, what do they have? Which one's cheapest? What editions do they have that I like? But when I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna buy a book, there's no process. I look around the whole bookstore and decide, hey, I want that one. Hey, I don't want that one. Number 9, what is your reading process? Reading process. I don't really know if I have a reading process. I just read. I don't know. I'm very much a mood reader, so I don't like plan ahead really what I'm gonna read. I might have like a TBR that I'm like, this is what I'm gonna try to get to this month, but it usually goes off the rails. And then for reading it, I just read when I can. For school, I will often break it up into 3 or 4 chunks and then read a chunk each day. That's when I need to like get things done and actually have it read for a class or for exams like I'm supposed to be doing right now, and I'm doing a terrible job of it. But yeah, so that's the most process I have. Other than that, I don't really have one. Number 10, how do you use what you read? Essays. Lots and lots of essays. PhD in English literature. Basically, I read books, I read theory and critical opinions to analyze those books, and then I use what I have analyzed in that to apply it to other books, to how can I analyze those books. I use it to write essays. That's what I do. And then like occasionally I get to use something I read as like a random fun fact, like, oh, I know this because I read it in a book, and that's always fun. But mostly it's just essays. Question number 11. If you could download a book to your brain, would you still read? Yes, absolutely. Again, reading's my main form of entertainment. So even if I could download a book to my brain, which by the way, would be so helpful. But yeah, I would still have books that I would read, because downloading it to your brain isn't the same as sitting with it and having the suspense of the plot and getting to know the characters and experiencing the writing. So yeah, I would still read. But it would make my life a whole lot easier with all this stuff for exams if I could have downloaded the second sex to my brain and just been like, okay, we're done with that. That would have been great. Number 12, what are your views on rereading a book? I love rereading a book. I actually haven't reread anything all this year, but that's very unusual. I usually reread quite a few books each year. I love revisiting books that I love and finding new things that I hadn't noticed before, or even just going back to an old plot and old characters that I know and that I find comforting. Yeah, I reread as a comfort a lot. I have certain comfort books that I go back to all the time. My favorite book, Wuthering Heights, I've reread a million times, and I still get something new out of it every time. I am going to be rereading some stuff this year coming up for my exams that I haven't read since like high school, so that's going to be fun. I'm excited to look at these books with a more mature mind and see what I get out of them this time. Number 13, what makes a book good? A book is good when I say it's good. No, but kind of. I don't know, it's so subjective. Like, there are books that people think are great that I'm like, wow, I hated that book. And then there's books that I adore and I'm like, this is the best book ever. And people are like, this book sucks. So it's very subjective. I like good writing. I like interesting, well-developed characters. And I don't know. Even sometimes a book can have those and I'm still like, I don't think this is a good book. It's just whether I like it or not. Really? It's such a terrible answer. Number 14, what makes a book bad? A book is bad when I say it's bad. Bad writing, poorly developed characters, bad plot pacing. Those can all contribute to a book being bad. Plot holes, like things just don't make sense and there's no explanation, stuff like that all contributes. And sometimes it's just bad because I say it's bad. Number 15, how do you feel about not finishing a book? I always feel a little bit weird about it, but I always remind myself, like, I don't have time for this. If I'm not liking a book or it's not the right time to read a book, then why should I be reading it right now? Like, no. We don't have time for this. There's so much to read in the world. I'm not going to waste it on things that I'm not enjoying or that I'm not in the right mood for. So sometimes I feel bad, but especially if I spent money on it, I feel bad. This happens a lot. If I pay like 25 bucks for a book, I'm like, I feel really bad not finishing it because that's my money. And so sometimes I'll force myself to finish the book and then I'll be like, book, you owe me $25 for being so horrible. So I think sometimes it is better to not finish the book so that I don't get mad at it. But yeah, I will DNF things. I don't think I do it nearly as much as I should. I probably should do it more. But also sometimes it's just not the right time for that book. Like The Little Friend by Donna Tartt, I've tried reading 3 times now, I think, and I've never made it through. And it's not that I don't like it. It's not that it's a bad book. I actually like it a lot. It's just, I have to be in the right mood for it. Again, I'm a mood reader. So I'll start the book and I'll be in the mood for it. And I'll get like halfway through. I think I was over halfway through last time. And then I'm not in the mood for it anymore. And then I put it down and I never get back in the mood for it. And then it's like 2 years and then I'm in the mood for it again. And now I've forgotten everything I read and I have to start over. So I do that occasionally as well. And again, I always do feel bad because like I want to finish the book. I want to finish The Little Friend. I just haven't. Number 16, should the author's personal life matter at all? You're really going for the hard-hitting questions there, Brandon. Jeez. Yes and no. So sometimes the author's personal life really informs on what they're writing. So you get authors who are more doing auto-fiction or who draw on pieces of their life for their novel. And so then if you're analyzing the book and writing about it academically, it is kind of important to know that Charlotte Bronte based Lowood School off her experience at the Cowan Bridge School, where her sister Mariah got tuberculosis and died, much like Helen Burns does in Jane Eyre. So yeah, that's important to know. A lot of times for modern literature though, I'm just like, I don't care about your personal life. I don't want to know you. The only thing I want is a picture of your dog. Like Stephen King, the only thing I really know about Stephen King is he has a dog, she's a corgi, her name is Molly, aka the Thing of Evil. And he and his wife and their dog live in a really cool looking house. And that's all I really want to know. I don't need to know his personal life. Actually, I do know more about him because I read On Writing, which is partially an autobiography. But like for the most part, I don't care. Like I pick up books all the time where I'm like, I have no idea about this author. I don't care about this author. I'm here for the book. However, there's other books where you need to be considering the author because there's a lot of them in the book. And then you have the authors that are like bad people in real life. And what do you do about that? And that is such a difficult question and a very complex topic. Can you separate the writer from their book? Not really, but kind of. Usually when I like draw the line at the author being dead. Like if the author is dead and they were a bad person, I can read their books and enjoy them while acknowledging that the author was a bad person and maybe this or that issue shows up in their writing. Like H.P. Lovecraft is super racist and it really comes through in his writing. But then you've got ones who are still alive. So like J.K. Rowling or I think it's Orson Scott Card. And them I really hateful things they have said, so I try to avoid them. So does the author's personal life matter? Yes, no, sometimes. It's a complex matter. Number 17, if you could only read one genre for the rest of time, what would it be? Okay, again with the hard-hitting questions here, Brandon. No. I don't want to say classics because I would get so burnt out. I can't even tell you how burnt out I would get. But like, I don't want to be stuck reading easy stuff for my whole life either. And like, I don't want to do fantasy because I get super burnt out when reading fantasy. Like I can't read a ton of fantasy in a row. I get sick of it. And like young adult, again, like too easy. Not that there aren't difficult young adult books, there are, but I need more range than that. So can I just say say contemporary general fiction and call that a genre? Is that cheating? I feel like that kind of encompasses as much as I can get. So you've got like some literary fiction, but then you also have some light, easy, fun reads. That's probably cheating. I don't care. That's my answer. Contemporary general fiction. Question number 18. Do you ever read a book without knowing anything about it? Oh yeah, especially if it's for school. Like sometimes these school books, I'm just like, well, that's on the reading list, so buy it, and I don't even read the summary, and then I pick it up, and I'm utterly surprised. And you know what? Sometimes it works out really well. Nervous Conditions, I did that with last semester. Ended up being a favorite book of the year. And then sometimes it doesn't work out very well. I have definitely picked up a few in the past, not so much now, but that I was like, oh, the cover's kind of cool, I'll pick that up, and I knew nothing about it, and then I read it and I was like, wow, this sucks. So I do it occasionally. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Number 19, what author, genre, series, or culture can you just not get into? Why? Science fiction. I can't do it. There is a block, for the most part. I have a few science fiction books I've enjoyed, like the Uglies series by Scott Westerfeld I really liked. Well, I haven't read it since high school, so but for the most part, I'm like, I don't know. I don't like technology in real life anyway. So like having things be more technologically advanced, I'm like, no. Like, I don't even like my phone. I say as I am a YouTuber. I don't like technology, but I'm a YouTuber and a blogger. But I don't know. I just like does not vibe with me. Aliens and like spaceships. I'm like, no, I don't really vibe with it. And like having a scientific explanation for like all this stuff. Like, no, get it away. I don't science. It was my worst subject in high school. You're talking to somebody who nearly failed bio. Like, I got through chemistry because I cried, and the lab instructor was like, what major are you? And I was like, English. And he was like, oh, okay. So like, I don't do science. I don't understand it. Or math, for that matter. Math, don't know it. So like putting that into my fiction, I'm like, get it away from me. I like magic. I don't need an explanation. I know that like you wave your wand and you say a spell and it works. You mix this stuff up and you make a potion and it works. Dragons are real because they're real. That's all well and good. Fantasy, love it. Science fiction, I just don't vibe. Again, there's a few that I've liked, but for the most part, I pick up science fiction and I'm like, ugh. There was one really classic one. I don't remember what the name of it is though. But multiple people kept telling me I would like it because it was like neo-Victorian. Like it was in the future, but like they had a very Victorian society. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a go. And I was like, no, I don't like it. Don't like it. I just can't do it. I don't know why. Not for me. I don't like spaceships. Star Wars is okay, but Star Wars is really just a fantasy set in space, and you can't change my mind on that because there is nothing scientific about the Force. It's magic. All right, number 20. Do you think everyone should read, and why? Yes, but I think that, again, it's kind of the same with the well-read question. I think we limit our definition of reading too much, and it's like if you're not reading these books, you're not really reading. But in reality, we all read every day, all the time. News articles, blog posts, like forums that people post on about, I don't know, video games, all kinds of stuff. Just because you're not reading Great Expectations doesn't mean you're not reading. So I think people should read what they like and the amount that they like. So I read classics a lot, obviously. So I'm reading, I'm having a good time, usually. My dad, on the other hand, used to be a really big reader until his eyes got kind of bad, but he's a big hiker, so he is now, well, he's now currently on the Appalachian Mountain Trail at almost 900 miles. Yay, Bob. But before he left, he was reading a lot of guidebooks about the Appalachian Mountain Trail. He was reading about like hiking. He was reading forum posts and blogs about people who had done it. I got the stacks of just travel books at my parents' house about the Appalachian Mountain Trail. There's a lot. That's reading. He's reading about something he's into. And I mean, same goes for my fiance, who's not a big reader in general. He likes video games, Magic the Gathering, and business. But you know what? I will look over and he will be like reading through some really long post about some random thing in Elden Ring that he's trying to get done. And he's super into it. And you know what? That's reading. So yes, I think everyone should read, and I think everyone does read. But we need to open our definition of reading because we're not being inclusive enough, generally speaking. All right, so that is the philosophy of reading tag. Thank you so much to Brandon for making this. It has been great chatting with you all. I would love to know down in the comments what your answers are to some of these questions. Do you agree with me? Disagree with me? Let me know. Been great chatting with you. I will see you soon. Bye.